up with time. You like so stuff undied. I said a high. These thoughts never can die. These tears never gonna chew. Some hearts double inside.
What's
How's
up?
everyone doing? Hey, Monday evening football. We got the preview show going again, Nick. Happy to be
Oh yeah,
back.
man.
Unfortunately, I do see your lights green
Very
still,
green still.
even though we have seen Aaron Rodgers dominating on the turf a little
Absolutely got a little
bit and some golf.
absolutely beat the hell out of Tom Brady in golf the other day. So that was it's always good to see.
Sure. But unfortunately, we will not be talking about Aaron Rodgers this episode because we'll be featuring his rivals, the Chicago Bears versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's a Week 9 matchup, Nick.
Yeah, I think yep.
And I think this one, I don't know if this one's necessarily on people's radars, but I think this one's going to have some juice as far as some playmakers potentially being in the game. Like at this point in the season, I think it's not unrealistic to expect that Justin Fields will be the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, and Dwayne Haskins might be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So some young talent here could potentially be facing off and making a name for themselves on a Monday night game that really isn't on anyone's schedule, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean it's a really it's definitely two notable teams, but I agree as far
Yeah.
as like if you're not a Bears or a let's just say if you're not a Bears or a Steelers fan, this you're right. I think
Yep.
this is a game that probably sneaks under the radar. I think it's probably why that time of the year Monday Night Football puts the two of them up there because at least those fan bases are super
Yeah.
super bought in. And you're in
Yep.
middle of November, I think, by the time we roll around to week 9. So I
Yeah.
think, but I agree. I think at that point in time, it could be a very interesting situation. Could see some young quarterbacks. To be honest, you don't know. I want to save the predictions for later, like as far as these teams are going to do this year.
Yeah,
But
for
I
sure.
don't even know exactly what you're going to see by week 9 out of both of these teams. You're right. You very well could see some backup quarterbacks playing simply because they haven't really gotten any momentum going either of these teams
Yep.
by that point in the year. And either way, a solid Monday night game. It'll be a fun one. It'll just be like
Yeah.
it'll be a
Oh,
fun one. It's
yes.
like these teams, probably a fun one to bet. Some damn good defenses on both sides of the ball.
Yes.
So yeah, man, I think a solid matchup.
Yeah, and I
Not
think
blowing my socks off, but solid.
yeah, I don't think it's like I think you hit it on the head perfectly. They have such big fan bases for a Monday night game this time of year. It's going to draw some attention. But I think really the interesting part about this game is the other thing you said is like you really just don't know with these two teams where they're going to be at this far in the season.
Yep.
Both these teams really do have the chance to write their own destiny or create their own future with what kind of football team they are going to be. And I think both of these teams are set up to be moving on. I think they both think they found their guy
Yeah.
in Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields. And I think, by this time, you could see one of those teams, probably a team that wears yellow and black, potentially, have their quarterback of the future and really dominate this game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bias coming from me
I don't disagree.
because obviously we know.
I
I'm sure you
I
don't.
do not.
We're, we're not going to get a Skip and Shannon situation going
No,
here.
no, definitely not today.
It's definitely going to be the more pile on type. But I I do like the Steelers in this game, and I was actually scrolling through Twitter here, Nicholas, and something that I did not know, according to Jarrett Bailey at J Bailey NFL,
Huh.
he's got the Pittsburgh Steelers as a top 10 defense, ranked number 5. So he says that, whereas NFL has the Bears defense ranked 3rd. So two top tier defenses really coming into this game, like you said, that I'd be interested to see if that has more of an impact on this game than any other aspect. Because I think on the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot of unknowns on what's going to go on. especially we have a Ben Roethlisberger took a deal to get the band back together. Get some parts that needed to be there. I think he realizes this is his last run. He's
Yeah,
essentially the equivalent of Dennis Quaid in Any Given Sunday.
no doubt.
Is
No doubt.
That's like the narrative. That's the narrative. The marketing team for the Pittsburgh Steelers have pitched them, and they're like, "Yeah, we're just going to recreate this movie,
Yep.
and this is what it's going to be."
Yeah, for sure. I think it's coming to the end for Big Ben, certainly. I think a guy that's been at times a controversial figure, obviously, due to his alleged off the field activities. But at the end of the day, I mean, 2 Super Bowls, people want to watch him play. I think, unfortunately, unlike a Peyton Manning or a Drew Brees or a Tom Brady at the end of his career, I think the
Yeah,
tough part for Big Ben is, he's found himself in a division that feels about as good as any division in the league. I think that's the trickiest
yeah,
part, right? Is he's in a situation where you've got, the Browns and the Ravens in your division, and they are getting just absolutely younger and better all the time, it feels like. And
yes,
like, I like a Mike Tomlin, I like a lot of what the Steelers have, but I think that's an uphill battle for them. And similarly to the Bears, right? Like the Bears are a little more of like
yes,
in a rebuilding mode, but the same type of thing. You just have a juggernaut in your division in the Green Bay Packers, and that is just tough. It is just always going to be
yeah,
tough. It's not so up in the air as a lot of other divisions in the NFL.
yeah. I mean, it definitely does because you put Ben Roethlisberger on a, you know, on a division that is less strong. Who knows? He does potentially just make a few more runs than he did. That is a tough thing to come in and year out,
Yeah,
and knowing that you're probably going to be one or two,
right.
but more often than not two.
Yep, yep. It's tough.
It's
It's tough.
it
It's
is a tough thing.
It's the defenses in this game are super solid though. I think that'll be fun to watch because at that point in the season you're going to be hitting your stride. Got a lot of film on your opponent. I don't think either of the offenses are going to be like blowing the doors off of any. So it's like
Correct.
in reality, uh, these defenses, this could be a great game if you like defensive football. A lot of people do. But yeah, at the end of
Yeah.
the day, man, this is a weird one if I'm being totally honest. Like if I'm being totally
It.
honest, not trying to give any like fluff, no bullshit. This is a weird Monday night game because I don't see how it's going to matter really, like in the like series, like in the playoffs or anything like that. Like this isn't going to
Yeah.
matter. I don't think either of these teams by week 9 are going to be really threatening like in a huge way. Once again, I
No.
could be wrong, but I don't think like it just doesn't. It's not a super exciting game. It's not a super exciting time of the year, which kind of makes me think why they would just pick 2 fan bases that care, 2 fan bases from some. If I'm being honest, some absolutely massive drinking towns. I mean, these people are going to watch this game at their local watering hole. Both of
Oh,
those
for
cities.
sure.
A nice northern, cold area in the United States, both of those places. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I don't know. It's one of those things. There's just not a ton to say about either of these teams
It.
this year that's super exciting, aside from a guy you mentioned earlier, which is Justin Fields.
Yeah. I would be interested to know what the Steelers fans and Chicago Bears fans thought about this. Whether they thought potentially like, no, this is a big game, or more or less how they see their season playing out.
Right.
Because I was kind of scrolling through here just to see what like does for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm gonna be honest, there's not a lot of buzz going on about like on-field stuff. And I know we're in like a lull in the off season, so that
Right.
could, you know, be about it. But yeah, not seeing much. On the other hand, on the Bears Twitter sphere,
Okay.
a lot of
A lot of bullshit.
Justin Fields
Is what it
our
feels like.
quarterback Justin Fields was training with Deshaun Watson,
Oh, okay.
throwing throwing the football
Interesting.
around. So yes,
Interesting.
and then Andy Dalton also posted a video on his Instagram. So that's what you have going on in the Chi
Well,
Town,
well.
and that's like the other interesting aspect to it too. Is that Andy Dalton, like he very well could be the starting quarterback week
Right.
9. So that's like I think that's why this game is so interesting because like the key position for both teams
Uh,
is like you don't know if someone. I know I've harped on this like 3 or 4 times, but you don't know if someone's going to be in that position, like
right.
guaranteed week 9, and I think that is probably the most interesting storyline that
Yeah.
can kind of come from this. But
Here's my
it'll
question:
yeah.
Is, let's say Andy Dalton starts this game for the Bears.
Mm, okay.
Do you think it's more likely that he is starting this game for the Bears because he has consistently started all nine, like the first 9 weeks? Or is he starting this game because he started the beginning of the year, was benched for Fields, and is now back
Mhm.
starting again by week 9? Like, which one of those do you think is more likely? Like, because I think that is really what the Bears fans are looking at more so, like in this quarterback situation, is like, when Fields, is it like we're just going to him now forever? Or is it like, yeah, no, I mean Andy Dalton, like if he doesn't play well, like, we'll go with Fields, but then we'll make a move back if we need to. We can always go back to Andy Dalton.
I think like that you have to leave everything on the table as far as options. Like I
Yeah,
don't think it could necessarily, even if Andy Dalton is struggling, be just a permanent switch.
yeah,
I think it. I think it probably will be that, but I think
yeah,
if you're the Bears, you need to realize that like he may not be ready for this year one, but everything that we've been seeing about the kid seems like he probably will be ready for that.
yep,
It'll just be a matter of time. Um, Essentially, I mean, Andy Dalton controls his own destiny in that situation,
yep,
but I think it's by week 9, if they're like 5-4 somewhere or four
yeah.
and five, I think you're probably seeing Andy Dalton.
Yeah,
Or
for sure. For
you know,
sure. I think that's, hey, you know what? Now that you said that, that just made me remember. That's
mm,
actually an interesting element of this game, too,
yep,
because this particular game, this is like the halfway mark in the season.
yeah,
You're playing a
yeah,
17 game season now, so really week 9 is kind of more than, you're right in that
yeah,
ballpark.
yep,
This is the midway point in the year, and I do agree. I think if the Bears are already out of it by this point, or they feel like, this is going to be a little tough, they're, you know, maybe sitting 3 games outside of a wild card spot at that point, something like along
yep,
those lines. Yeah, I think you're probably seeing Justin Fields at that point. I think it's probably just let's get him the reps, and
yeah,
let's do that. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting because you could say the same thing about the Steelers. I mean, there's no guarantee Ben Roethlisberger's even healthy by week 9. The way that dude
yeah,
like looks, like really his whole career. But I mean, he's an injury-prone guy at the end of his career, and it's
yeah,
like, there's no reason he necessarily starting either. And if you're them, you have even more reason to play a Dwayne Haskins if you feel kind of out of it by the midway point in the year.
yes, you do.
You kind of, now once again, I don't think they would make that same move. They're not going to sit Roethlisberger if he's healthy, but
Yeah,
that's a
correct.
big if, right? With that guy, I mean, at the end of the day, that is a big if. I think
Absolutely.
what's interesting, to be honest, man, in this game is just a lack of offensive weapons. Like, there's no, we're covering games where we're talking about OBJ in weeks past. We're talking about games where we're talking
Yeah,
about Saquon Barkley. We're talking about, I think, Tom Brady coming up. We talk about Mahomes and them. This is a
yeah,
game where neither of these teams really has a super premier offensive, like, weapon. I like Juju. Don't get me wrong. I like some of these guys, but not really like a super talented
yeah,
offensive weapon on either side of the ball, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. And then like Juju Smith-Schusters and Allen Robinson, who are both
Mm,
top tier talents at their position. They're good, you
yep.
know. And then I'd like to see, Najee Harris. He's going to
Oh
be the running
yeah.
back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll be interested to see how he's coming along by week 9 because he could potentially be, their breakout new feature
Yep.
like a Le'Veon Bell, Jerome Bettis,
Oh
back in
yeah.
the
The
day.
bus,
So
baby.
yeah, so I'll be interested to see what goes on there. But yeah, I mean, Nick, let's get into some predictions here.
All right.
Let's So we talked a little bit about both teams.
Yep.
We're very we're very confused on this one. Essentially,
Yep.
is what I can let the people at home know is like it's this one. I think probably has the biggest upside, because it has the lowest expectations probably so far.
Yeah, I think
As terms of Monday evening football games we've covered.
yeah, for sure. I think this is a game. Um, Realistically speaking, I think the Steelers win this one, but I just don't see this being a high scoring game. I think this is one of those games where like I think it's going to be tough for them on that over under to hit 50. I think that's going to be nearly impossible. I think this is realistically like a
Yeah.
21-17 type of game. Steelers win. I think that's really where we're at. I think going into this game, both of these teams are going to be sitting third place in their division. And I
Yep.
think by week 9, they'll both be sitting outside of the playoff picture. I really do. I think the Steelers are good. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that division is absolutely brutal. And you
Yeah.
have to remember too, the Steelers struggled late in the year last year, but since they were undefeated for
They
like the
did.
first 14 weeks of the year, they are playing that much more difficult schedule because I believe they were playing the first place schedule
Yes.
from that division. So I think both teams are sitting in third place. I think the Steelers get this one squeaked by. And I'll be honest with you, Scott, I wouldn't be shocked if after this game, either way, whoever is starting for the Bears, I wouldn't be
Uh-huh.
shocked if this game, that loss that I'm predicting, leads to a change in quarterback for the Bears going into week 10. I could see whoever starts week 9 getting benched after losing to the Steelers.
Yeah. So okay, so I like because I think that is 100% accurate. But I think there's one thing that you might have missed on.
Oh, all right.
I don't think the Bears are going to lose.
Interesting.
The Steelers are going to lose.
Oh, I like
Yes.
this. I like this.
I think they are going to tie.
Interesting.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
And because I don't know if they'll have enough firepower. I'm predicting like a rainy night
Ooh,
at Heinz Field,
in November.
like too much ketchup on the field, they're slipping and sliding, it feels like it's going to be a game that kind of like has that like aura around it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ended in a tie and then you saw some quarterback shakeups because of that, Nick.
Yeah.
That's my prediction for this game. And I think if you lock that in with your local betting app, like a FanDuel, a DraftKings, a Barstool Sportsbook, Riverside Bets, some of those other ones that are out there as well, the smaller ones that you may not have heard of, but offer great incentives, and we'd be more than happy to plug in this spot right here for them. I think you would get some probably good odds if you took that bet.
Yeah, I
so,
think so too.
Feel free to take that bet and watch it cash in for you when the season comes around.
That's a damn good bet. Scott, let me ask you one more thing before we get off there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you, here's my, we're going to go lightning rapid fire. All right.
Okay. I like this bit.
We're going to be halfway through the season when we get to week 9. Okay. So at the point where you and I are watching this game, week 9, we sit down to watch this game. As that ball is kicked off, who is leading number 1 seed in the AFC, NFC, and then who is leading the offensive and defensive MVP races? So those 4. Your best team in each conference, and then by that midway point in the season, where is your head at?
All right, I got Buffalo and Green Bay.
All right.
I think are leading the AFC and the NFC.
Yep.
And then we have best offensive player at that point of the season. Yep. It's tough to go with anyone but a quarterback.
Yeah.
But I'm going to, because I don't think it's going to be a quarterback. I think there's going to be a strong case for potentially a receiver.
Oh, okay.
And like a Devontae Adams comes to mind.
Interesting.
But see, it's tough for him to get something like that because he's playing with Aaron Rodgers.
Of course.
In the cases like Aaron Rodgers is throwing him the ball.
Yep.
So, but best defensive player. Best defensive player. I think, you always look at a guy like Aaron Donald, who just shows that he's a force in and out. There was a guy that we covered potentially like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think for the Eagles. Maybe. I like him a lot. He's going to come on.
Oh, that rookie.
People are going to be like, oh, I never heard of this guy. And it's like, yeah.
Now
Well,
you have.
they knew about him over at Monday Evening Football, and we'll just clip it, and
Absolutely.
we'll just let's get it.
Absolutely. Dude, that's great. I love it, man.
Yeah, but okay. So, what about you? What do you think?
I agree with you with the Packers. In the
Yep,
in the
okay.
AFC, I'm gonna go Cleveland Browns. I think Cleveland Browns will be right back
I
where
like
they
that
were.
one.
I think they'll be making some things happen by the midway point in the year. Barely, but I think leading the AFC. Um,
Yeah,
offensive
I can see like 8-1.
offensive player of the year. I actually like. I agree with you. I don't want to take a quarterback. I feel like it should be a quarterback, but I actually think Derrick Henry. I think with teams having to worry about Julio Jones now, I could see Derrick Henry having just enough of like that pressure sort of alleviated from him, where he is just
Yeah.
having a season like we've just never seen from a running back. He
Oh,
rushed for like 2,000 yards last year, which was more than the year before when they went to the AFC Championship
yeah.
game. I think I could see him absolutely now with Julio Jones there, just getting great opportunities and just absolutely smacking people. And I actually like Aaron
Yeah.
Donald too, man. I think Aaron Donald is poised to have a phenomenal year. Like I just think that guy is just too good, and
Yeah.
it's just hard to you just have those guys where they can on the defensive end of the ball. I feel like guys can string together like 2 or 3 really good years in a row before things start to get figured
Yes.
out. That's always been the case with like those
Correct.
guys, like those premier corners, like Revis. He was like 2 years, and then it kind of fades.
Yep.
J.J. Watt was like 3 years, and then it started to be like the injuries were too much. Aaron Donald, I
Yep.
think this year could, yeah, I totally agree. I could see him just
Yeah.
wreaking havoc.
And then another guy, I think, now that you reminded me of some corners, a guy that popped into my head, call me a homer, I don't care, but Jair
Best corner in
Alexander
the
could
league.
be he could be in that running this time this
Best
next
best
year
corner.
during this game,
That's absolutely the best corner
week
in the
9.
league, man. Right there, Jair Alexander.
He embodies like what it is to be in
Oh, for
corner.
sure,
He talks trash,
for sure.
goes up and gets
It's
it.
what it's about,
You just lock down
dude.
there. Essentially, he's a guy that won't get talked about,
Yes,
but should get talked about more.
yes, absolutely, absolutely, dude.
But
I love it, man.
yeah,
I'm looking forward
hey,
to it. It'll be a good one. Yeah, man. I mean, I think
it
that's what
will.
we got for the people today, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in. We'll be back next Monday, getting after it.
Yes.
That's what we got here. Until then, adios.
Hey.